Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss what plant proteins, the third biomolecules, the building blocks of nature, and you can see the five very clear in this. You can see beans, you can see grams, you can see peas, you can see lentils, and you can see soya beans. And particularly rajma and other things, these are the most important proteins from plant kingdom which are absolutely essential for every human being, not a non-vegetarian protein, pure vegetarian protein, and I take only that, and my concentration is only on pure vegetarian diet, and that is what is designed for perfect human beings. The kind of teeth, kind of enzymes, kind of the length of gastrointestinal system is exactly the one which is like fructivorous animals, just like birds. And what are the birds eat is like that. It is not herbivorous, it is not carnivorous. And that with the point I start, that the plant contains are very important for plants, proteins to the perfect human beings, health, wealth, wisdom and happiness. Now, let me discuss about the Rig Veds, the descent of atoms, elements, molecules, compound from the universal consciousness to the ground of the earth and from the ocean to this. The gods and goddesses of the Vedas represent the various atoms, elements and molecules of divine nature. Indra, the king of gods, is the rain god of water. With thunder, lightning and rain, all the essential elements came down from the cosmos to the ocean. Biological life started in the warm, saline waters of the ocean, and everything for the unicellular organism started from ocean, sustained from ocean, went back to ocean, and then converted from unicellular to multicellulars over to the stage that the most perfect individual or the product or the creation is perfect human being who is in tune with universal consciousness. And from that point, I understand everything started from Sagar Manthar, Smoother Manthar, or the churning of the primordial ocean. And I have learnt A to Z of the entire universe, from Ved Upanishad to all the knowledge of the universe, from beginning till date, within my human body as such. And I experience all the atom, element, molecules which are essential, which are 14 in nature, and how they form the molecules, how they form the compounds, how they form the cells, how we come to perfect, and how the consciousness will become. That entire universe is within human being itself. That is what the whole objective of my video is, because all the knowledge in the entire universe from A to Z is man-made defective concept. There is nobody knows what divine mathematics, nobody knows divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology and medical sciences. These are the core subjects which I am interested. I am not into any of those subjects which do not fall into that. Divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, divine biology and divine human being as such. Now from that angle I tell you, from the atom, element, molecules, that is called mineral compounds. Everything, that is what Rigved is all about, and the most important is Agni, which is the fire element. Less Agni, it is water and ice, and more Agni is Vayu and Akash. And that way the science also needs to be rectified with Rigved and the one which I am trying to explain, so that this impeccable wisdom which everybody should know, so that there is no difference in opinion of anybody and everybody, and uniform consistency which is required with the kind of modern equipment which we have, which could be in a position to talk of the perfection which is possible, which was not available earlier. This is the mineral kingdom. From mineral kingdom we have come to the plant kingdom. At a photosynthesis, it is the sun energy which is important, and without sun there is nothing at all possible. Second thing which is next important is the water itself, and how methane has become like carbon dioxide, and there we have already explained. But this is how it started, and then synthesis of carbohydrate is the first concept, and particularly with respect to the glucose as such. Now the genesis biochemistry, as I told you, the science of biochemistry evolved from atom, element, molecule, organ, compound, and this is something which is found in plant kingdom to start how the process of formation, what is required for human being, starts with the plants only. Now comes the plant kingdom. How everything is there from this, how carbon dioxide in the light of sun and water is converted into oxygen and sugar, and that is where the whole life started thereafter from unicellular organisms. Now comes to the question of very some same of the glucose or some of the cells in the use for cellular respiration, that is one thing. Some of the glucose is used by cells in cellular respiration when glucose plus oxygen is used up together to form carbon dioxide and water, and that is cellular respiration, which we will be talking much more detail when we come to the animal cells or the human cells as such. Then some glucose is converted into starch and stored in seed, and starch is nothing but polysaccharide of glucose plus glucose and glucose only. Glucose plus glucose is maltose, and this thing is like starch that is stored in the seed for us to be used as such. Then third thing which comes to any remaining glucose is used to make lipids and proteins and carbohydrate plant growth. So very clear, lipids are from glucose, so is the protein from glucose. Oh, that is something. So basic is glucose, second is lipids, and I would talk lipid, I am not talking about the fats, and particularly some of the essential fatty acids which make a difference in beta oxidation to give you a more of energy by using lipids. And then the proteins which are building block, the next stage, and which come with a hydrogen, carbon, oxygen plus nitrogen put together. This is a fourth element which is appearing now. Earlier it was hydrogen, then carbon, then oxygen put together, and now protein is with nitrogen as such, and that's where the plant kingdom by and large has converted carbon dioxide into 78% protein, nitrogen, 21% oxygen in the universe as such. Now come to the question, amino acids, and these are the building blocks of the proteins itself, and as I written is the third biochemical of life, essential as such. Now come to the question of protein. Proteins are essential macromolecules made of long chains of amino acids that perform a vast array of functions in the body, such as building and repairing tissues, catalyzing reactions, and transporting molecules. These are the main functions of protein as such. They are a vital part of every cell and are crucial for growth, development, and overall physiological health. So only proteins which are third in the line, which become in the whole creation as well as development and maintenance thereafter. So you can see the essential point of proteins is so essential for further evolution. They are the one which start in the beginning, carbohydrates to lipid. The proteins make a difference when they start forming in creation as such. Without that, nothing can be created as such in a potential form. Now the comes the synthesis of protein or nitrogen as such to start with. Carbon plus hydrogen put together is nitrogen. Is a hydrated carbon, not not carbohydrates, not water. It is just hydrogen, and carbon is nitrogen. Volcanoes activity release water vapors. Steam of water vapors is condensed in time. After cooling of the earth is to form oceans. Nitrogen was probably released by volcanoes which gradually built up in the atmosphere because it is an unreactive element. Nitrogen by itself an unreactive, it does not find reaction at all, whereas carbon is highly reactive, so is oxygen, so is hydrogen, but not nitrogen, and then has to be converted into ammonia with hydrogen NH4 to start the process of further development. Once that is kind of knowledge is given to the students from school, college, university, research, otherwise, we'll have a perfect uniform education, as if today's scenario is full of defects. So nobody can give the right answers. We need perfect answers for everybody. This is the process to do that. Now the question of nitrogen cycle. In this picture you can see very clearly how nitrogen is converted in ammonia and how the process goes in the universe to come, and how ammonia is done, how is used up, how is made into protein. All the cycle is very clearly written in this particular process. I am not going to talk to in detail, which if anyone who is genuinely interested is like that. I am just giving you the points of consideration as such. Now come to the question of pool amino acids. There are three particular types. These are programmed levels of amino acid in the plant that are known as pools, and do have a cytoplasm, you have mitochondria, and you have chloroplast. These are three things which make a difference. Without a chloroplast, the plants cannot really do photosynthesis at all. So it's absolutely question. So is mitochondria, where ATP is produced, and so is cytoplasm. Once this is understood, only then you can understand, you can go further in understanding the whole function of human being as such. Now the question of synthesis of amino acids in plants is now I am going with the 10 stages of synthesis of protein in plant kingdom is given right in the center very clearly. You can see the plant cell on one side and the cycle on the other side and the 10 processes. One by one I want you to look at it leisurely and understand first step, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth and 10th. Once you understand how amino acids are produced in 10 steps, whereas glucose is produced in 7 steps and lipid also in 7 steps. Now the formation of amino acid, this is how whole amino acids are put together. This is a process which goes on in the plant kingdom. You can see how different and how these amino acids later develop to form together as protein slowly by the union of amino acids of different natures. Once those things are formed, the proteins become what? Then you have a different kind of proteins essential for different things. Now the complete formation of amino acids is a tripeptide chain. Is just given an example of glycine. When you reduce the water from them, then they become like a chain. Again in carbohydrate to become lipids, or carbohydrate from monocellular to disaccharide, monosaccharide to disaccharide to polysaccharide and even mulopoxide, it is a water which is reduced. Glucose plus glucose after reduction of water becomes maltose. Same glucose plus fructose minus water becomes sucrose. Galactose plus glucose minus water becomes lactose. But that's how the monosaccharides, disaccharides and polysaccharides, same thing is coming in amino acid too. It is a water, two elements which are put together to form the chain. Then this particular change further becomes important. This is where I would say many of the subject like encyclopedia, this particular picture is very good, and I think we should take that science which is perfect from all the available, and the one which is not perfect we should have the courage to eliminate one by one. Now comes to the question of amino acids. There are 21 amino acids. This is what Divyanki is all about, and then they become 24. There are 9 are essential and 12 are non-essential. What are the 9 essential amino acids are given in the left side as essential? Histidine, and then you have holicin, then you have leucine, then you have lysine, then you have phenylalanine, then thymine, and also valine and tryptophan. These are the 9 which are absolute essential, which cannot be easily manufactured in the human body. They have to come from outside as such. Whether a non-essential 12 are formed within the human body itself, so they can be formed with a combination in the proteins within the body as such. What is your alanine, arginine, aspartame, aspartic acid, cysteine, and glutamic acid, glutamate, glycine, proline, and cysteine, and serine, as well as tyrosine. These can be manufactured within the human body, but 9 cannot be manufactured. They need to come from protein. And most of the people unfortunately say essential amino acids come from animal protein, which I do not agree at all. Since I do not take non-vegetarian, I take only vegetarian. I have no deficiency of essential amino acids within my body. There is not in one thing which is produced in the human body which has to be essential from this. Is consumed from the plant kingdom for me, and that is a point which I am trying to make it very, very clear. Now, these are the different structures of these amino acids. You can leisurely read it as when you come to that particular part. Now come to the question of the two processes of formation of proteins or amino acid into glucose or lipids. So there are three things which are important. One is a carbohydrate, primarily glucose. Then you have lipids, which is the fatty acids, and then protein, which is amino acids. So you have two types: glucogenic amino acids, which produce glucose, and ketogenic, which produce lipids. Now, glucogenic amino acids are broken down into intermediate that can be used to create glucose, including pyruvic acid, alpha ketoglutarate, succinyl CoA, fumarate, oxoacetate. These are the five things which are intermediates. These precursors are then converted to glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis. One, glucose is converted into energy is glycolysis, and gluconeogenesis is from how these products are converted into glucose again in the liver as such in the human. Once that is understood, you know importance of glucogenic amino acids. That means even proteins can be brought into glucose, and most problem in diabetic patient is when amino acids or proteins are broken down and converted into glucose to increase the glucose level, and that is much more dangerous than ketogenesis. Once that is understood, I think very clear, this process should not go into the line at all. Now the ketogenic amino acid. Ketogenic amino acids are broken down into acetyl CoA or esteoacyl CoA. These are two compounds which are essential, which can then be converted into ketone bodies like autoacetate, are used in the synthesis of fatty acids. That was in synthesis of glucose. This is fatty acids, and this is required, not the one which is into glucose. The body can use these products for energy, but they cannot be used to produce glucose. Similar. This is again I have made very clear. 1 gram of protein produce 4 kilocalories. 1 gram of carbohydrate or glucose produces 4 kilocalories, but as for fatty acids concerned, 1 gram produces 9 kilocalories, which is 2.25 times more than proteins and glucose as such. And that is energy which ATP, which I would be talking as we move on to the next stage, because we have come from hydrogen, carbon, oxygen to the carbohydrate and lipids, and with this to protein. Now for next we will need a phosphate to also to come to the fifth product to produce energy molecules, which we will be talking in the next one. Now the pathway of glucogenic and this process is given very clearly. I am not going to go into detail. When you are there, you can see this and then see the process how it's converted from glucose, and this process is as such. So things very clear. You can see this picture beautifully. It's done very well with many of the scientists. It's a research product, very good. I have no difficulty in accepting that, and it's also shown different amino acids play a different role in the process. Once you see that, you need to concentrate, contemplate, and then store in the body the process how glucogenic and ketogenic pathways of amino acids are important and what plays a role. Now glucogen and ketogenic amino acids, as with this picture again, very clear, same process, and I am not going to detail, is highly researched thing, but process is very, very clear. Once you understand that these are the essential amino acids or non-essential are 21 things, how they come to form both glucose and fatty acids, and the process within the human body is exactly that. So I would definitely say take carbohydrate to the complex carbohydrate up to 61.80%, preferably more of fructose and less of glucose as such, because fructose is finally going to get into glucose once again, and something which is essential is going to get converted into lipids in plants and fat in the human body, which can be used for glucose at a later date. Similarly, same glucose can be converted to protein into amino acids to produce, and this process can go on beautifully. Once you understand the picture, you will know how much of carbohydrate you have to take, which should be complex, not of refined sugar, not much of glucose, but more of a fructose like honey and things like that, are fructose, are sucrose, etc. In such a way, there is slow release of glucose in the body and done with it. And similar the kind of proteins which you can take both from plant kingdom, you will have no difficulty at all. You don't need to take non-vegetarian protein at all. And I am just making an example for myself, that I would not drink, I will not smoke, I will not do anything which is coming in the way of the whole digestive system. We are fructivorous, frugal animals who can live on the proteins and carbohydrates as such without anything, and no alcohol, no smoking, no drugs at all, which can spoil our homeostasis system. I am making that point very, very clear once again. Now come to the question of different glucogenic and different amino acids. That processes are given. One glucogenic amino acids, glucogenic for ketogenic plus ketogenic. All the three processes, one separately, one both together. And these are the things which you can read it yourself and remember it. I don't have to talk about it because they are given there for you to see these videos slowly and steadily, one by one. Now comes to the question of one thing which I do agree. Fermentation of amino acids is equally important, and I am very fond of paneer or cottage cheese, and that comes from the milk to cheese part. But that fresh or fish is also converted into fish sauce, or soya bean into soya sauce. So this fermentation can make a difference, and you can do things as a probiotic and prebiotic things to make sure that you are absolutely in tune with universal consciousness. Once that is understood, you can easily go to a perfect health, wealth, wisdom and happiness, and as a result you will not have any difficulty in the brain thinking rationally. All the requirement of the brain, which is very high for intellectual work, is almost 20 to 25% of glucose and oxygen used for the brain, and 15% of circulation goes there. And once that is understood, the amount of people who are physically active, mentally very intelligent, they will never have any problem with diabetes or anything, because the system will do, and just within 22 minutes they will be able to do wonders. And then for next 68 minutes they need to work for grounding part, not for some. Once you have that process, you can be absolutely intelligent genius in the world, and you can do the wonders the way Ved Upanishads were written. For that matter, what I am trying to do is exactly the way the human beings are designed. Unfortunately, we had deviated from the path of nature's design, which was a perfect vegetarian, no smoking, no alcohol, nothing at all, and how water and glucose and lipids and amino acids can be done to make ourselves perfect. And that is what I am talking about. I have desire everybody to be healthy, wealthy, wise. Let us not be conditioned by something which is unnatural, defective as such. Coming to this stage, I am not going to talk. I think this is enough for the day. Thank you very much.